After auditing hundreds of 7 and 8-figure brand flows, most of them are leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table with flows because they rely on set it and forget it flows set up by some random agency 2 years ago. Their flows look like everyone else's, they aren't personalized for the customer, and they don't drive anywhere near as much revenue they could be because of it. Now in this video, I'm going to share the exact email flow strategy that we use to create irresistible Klaviyo flows in 2025 for our 7 and 8-figure brand partners. Now your flows should be helping to convert browsers into buyers and buyers into loyal customers, but most brands fail before they even get started because they're making these 3 mistakes. The first is just creating one-size-fits-all sequences. Now, most brands send the exact same flow to someone who's abandoning a $20 product versus a $500 product. Now, if you do have that kind of variance in your store, it's important to segment based off of that. And if you're not, you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table. Now, what we found is that by segmenting based off of cart value alone, this can help to increase your cart recovery rates. Now, people are going to have different objections if they have a very low value product versus a very high value product. The second mistake is poor timing and frequency. The standard 1 to 3 emails spaced out 1 hour, 24 hours, and 2 days isn't optimized for maximum recovery. Our data across 50 plus brands shows that timing should vary dramatically based off of the product category, price point, and consumer behavior. So a general rule of thumb here is if you have a higher average order value product, and you can see here, if you have a higher AOV, you're probably gonna wanna space things out a little bit further because that buying decision is a little bit longer. For example, a furniture brand we work with, their buying cycle is usually about 17 days. If we blast the entire welcome series within 3 days, it's probably not going to go all that well because it's going to take people a little bit of time to determine like, hey, do I actually want this product? They're probably going to be shopping around a little bit. You want to make sure you're spacing things out a little bit more so that you're more in tune with the customer buyer journey. The third mistake is failing to address specific abandonment reasons. Now, after auditing literally hundreds of brands, most flow emails are almost the exact same. It usually looks something like this. Hey, did you forget something? Hey, your cart misses you. Hey, do you want a discount? There are specific reasons why people abandon their cart at different stages in their customer journey. Each sequence and each email within that sequence should address them. It shouldn't just be a blanket approach kind of like this one. This isn't actually handling anyone's objections, except in the last email, you're handling the price objection. And in the first email, you're just handling a reminder, right? A reminder in the first email is okay. However, we want to make sure that based off of where people are at in their customer journey, we're actually hitting on the potential objections they have. More on that in a minute. So the foundation to better performing flows and a 112% better cart recovery system is what we call a 5-tier segmentation system. 112% might seem really weird, but this is actually something we tested out, and this is the exact percentage that we saw it made improvements by. Now, this allows us to send highly segmented, highly targeted recovery emails based off of 5 different things. The first is tiered cart value. So what we do is split out abandoned carts into 3 different brackets for tiered recovery. So it would be low value, mid value, and high value carts here. Now, each tier is going to have a completely different sequence, with high value carts receiving more personalized attention and maybe even including an SMS or personal outreach from someone on the team. Here's the exact filter setup you can use on Klaviyo as well. So for low filter, you're going to say cart total value is less than $50. Mid, it's going to be greater than or equal to $50, and then also less than or equal to $150. And then higher value is going to be greater than $150. Now, these numbers are kind of like a rough idea. It kind of is going to depend on your store. If you have products that range from $20 to $2,000, you might want to spread that out a little bit more. Or if you have products that are, even $100 versus $20,000, you also are going to want to adjust that accordingly because people are going to have different objections for different types of products. The second piece is tiered based on purchase history. Now, what we want to do is further segment based off of purchase history, giving tailored messaging based off of if it was a first-time customer or if it was a previous VIP customer. Now, what we do here is with first-time customers, we're going to have usually higher discount offers. We're going to emphasize guarantees and trust and really lean into that. We're also going to focus on the brand introduction and kind of like the indoctrination there too, because these people are just not familiar with the brand. However, if someone has purchased before, then what we want to do is more so focus on that loyalty messaging, more so focus on the other pieces of the business that aren't just discount related. So we're going to rely less heavily on discounts here. We might have a few, but it's going to be a lot less heavily discount oriented. And what we also might want to do is reference the past purchases people have made, depending on if it's applicable or not. Now, with your VIP customers, these are going to be much more high touch. You might want to even reach out to people personally, send people a gift, send people something, and give them exclusive access to things. So instead of leaning heavier on discounts, you might want to give them early access to new product launches, or you might want to even tap into them to learn like what products people actually want to receive. These are your best customers and you want to treat them well. Now, you'll note here that I've got 0 past purchases, 1 to 3 past purchases, or 4 past purchases. This is also going to vary based off of your brand. If you sell like skincare, this might make a lot of sense. But if you sell furniture, you're probably going to have to shift this a little bit. And you might go first time purchasers, previous customers who have purchased once, and then you might do VIP where they've purchased more than twice. Again, it's kind of just going to depend on your brand and what makes the most sense here. So not only will this be more personalized for people receiving it, it's also going to improve your margins by eliminating those unnecessary discounts for people who have already purchased and are probably going to purchase again anyways. The third thing is tier product category. Now, different products have different buying considerations, right? If you have a high consideration product, this might be something that's more complex, more expensive. They have longer decision cycles, like what I mentioned with furniture. If it's a 17-day decision cycle, that's a big difference between something that's like one and done, like you see it and you buy it. These sort of high consideration items are probably going to need a lot more information too. So some examples of this might be luxury items. It could be electronics. It could be appliances. It could be furniture. Anything that's like higher value usually, or that creates a high degree of skepticism as well. The second would be mid consideration. So this would be like kind of moderate research needed. Price is a little bit less of an issue here. Still kind of like somewhat. It's not necessarily an impulse buy and it might still require a little bit of research here. Customers might even be comparing price of your product versus other brands' products. And examples here could be fashion, cosmetics, specialty foods, and gifts. And then those low consideration items are really just like the impulse buys. It's the fidget spinners. It's the things that are really like less than $50, less than $100 sometimes, but usually that like less than $50, less than $75 range. People don't need to consult their wife, for example, if they're buying a fidget spinner or something like that. Well, at least I would hope they don't. These are going to be products that are much more impulse purchases. There's a much quicker decision-making process. You're going to need to leverage some urgency triggers in here as well. And things like this could be like snacks, those fidget spinners, small accessories, basic toiletries, or digital downloads. Now, the other alternative here is based off of category. This is a really, really cool one, but it could be based off of, for example, if you sell supplements, it could be based off of weight loss supplements versus muscle building supplements. So here you're going to want to build on different objections and different things that people might be considering in their buying process if they're looking at weight loss products or if they're looking at muscle building products. You're also going to want to hit on different pain points that people have based off of what they're looking for. Number 4 is tier browse behaviors. So what we want to do is look at how users have engaged on your site and deliver personalized recovery messages based off of that. So what we might look at here is going to be like the pages that people viewed. It could be the products that people viewed. It could be the times that people have abandoned carts. And then within each of these, you're going to look at different engagement levels. So if they've hit 1 to 2 pages, 2 to 3 pages, 5 to 7 pages, if they've viewed one product, or if they've viewed 6 different products within the same category, if they've viewed 6 different products in multiple different categories, if they've added to cart once, if they've added to cart 5 times, if they've added to cart 16 times, right? What we're really trying to do here is understand browse behavior and try to predict purchase intent based off of what people are actually doing, right? If someone's abandoned cart 6 times and you've already hit them up with the first 3 messages like 5 times, they're probably not going to resonate with the same thing again. We want to make sure that we're actually hitting on people's objections, and that might be a good opportunity to reach out to people and be like, hey, what's holding you back? Like, have a survey, right? Understand why people aren't actually purchasing or why people haven't taken the plunge and actually purchased, right? The 5th and final is going to be the acquisition source. Now, this is going to have varying different results, and it kind of just depends on what you guys are doing in terms of top of funnel traffic. But overall, recovery rates with any types of these flows can vary very dramatically based off of how people actually found your store, right? So the quality of the traffic and what point they found you in their customer journey, right? So if, for example, you're using paid social, the abandonment rate is usually going to be a lot higher higher. Your revenue potential is usually going to be kind of in that mid-range. People are going to be a little bit more impulse driven here, higher discount sensitivity, and they're probably going to need a lot more social proof because they saw you from an ad. The next would be kind of like organic search. Now, your abandonment rate here is going to be a little bit less than paid social because people are searching you out specifically. These are going to be more like research-oriented people, higher purchase intent people, and also they will likely value more detailed information. And then finally, you have your direct and or returning customers. These are going to be people coming from like bookmarks, coming from emails, coming from SMS. These are people who are far more engaged, and you could kind of incorporate social, like organic social, to a certain capacity depending on the platform. But sometimes that organic social actually falls before paid social, right? Like if you're going really viral with a bunch of TikTok videos, it's going to be very low engagement and low intent and a much higher abandonment rate versus someone who's like following you on YouTube and has spent like 40 minutes watching your videos. Hello, if you're watching this, right? Gonna be totally different. Now, in terms of Klaviyo implementation here, the trigger you can use is start a checkout but did not place order, and then you'd add a UTM source contains Facebook and or Instagram and whatever, like plug in the value you want there. You do need to be using UTM tags in order to do this on your other platforms as well as on Klaviyo. So that is the 5-tier acquisition source. Now, the next piece here is the perfect timing sequence. Now, timing with flows is absolutely crucial. It's everything. We want to hit people at the right time with the right messaging, and the right messaging is largely based off of the segmentation side of things, but time delay split test can actually be one of the highest value things that you can run for your flows. And here's some of the sequences that we use for our most successful clients. So when it comes to the abandoned cart flow, for example, hitting customers at the right moment with the right message is critical. Some of the key things that you might look for is when the first email is going out. You might also look at the duration, like how long the flow is going to last for. Is it going to last for 2 days? Is it going to last for 16 days? Again, based off your AOV, based off of purchase history, you should take all of this into consideration. Sequence length is another one. Are you going to have 3 emails? Are you going to have 17 emails? I probably wouldn't lean to 17, but depending on how things are working, you might have more or less than what I say here. Like 3 to 5 for most flows is going to be pretty decent. However, we've got some brands who have like 10 emails in their abandoned checkout because it's working really well. And because we're not like, it's not just like, hey, your cart misses you 10 times, right? It's like we're hitting on different objections. And then at some stage, we hit people up with incentives with varying different kind of barriers that we bring down with those incentives. So similarly, how we're going to look at this is low consideration, mid consideration, and high consideration products. So with low consideration products, the timing is going to be in a much smaller window. So we're going to have that initial reminder after about 30 minutes. You can always test this, but 30 minutes is usually going to work pretty well. Quick follow-up, so around 5 hours after that abandonment. The next day reminder, so 24 hours after that abandonment, and then the final offer. This is also something we'll use for Black Friday because we have a much more condensed window. So something to consider there. Split test recommendations here would be split testing 30, an hour, and 2-hour initial delay here. More than likely though, you're going to end up in the 30 minutes or 1 hour delay. Now with mid consideration products, you're going to want a slightly longer sequence here for sure. That's not to say that the low consideration products won't have a longer sequence. Depending on how you want to structure it, and what you have in your content and what you're selling, you actually could have, like one of our clients has about 8 or 9, and they're very, very low consideration products. With these mid consideration products, I'd kind of start with that hour range, maybe 30 minutes again for that first email. Second email would be 12 to 24 hours after. Email 3 would be 2 days after. Email 4 would be 3 days after. And then email 5 would be 5 days after. Again, split test recommendations here are going to be very, very similar to low consideration. I test a 30-minute, 1 hour, and 2 hour initial delay. And then finally, we have our high consideration products. Now, this is where things can vary quite a bit more versus a low consideration product, where we're going to want a much longer sequence. The window is going to be a much longer. And also our split test might be a little bit different here too. So email 1 would be 2 hours. You might want to test out these other split test recommendations that I have here. So 4 hours or 30 minutes. Email 2 would be 24 hours. Email 3 would be 3 days. Email 4 would be 5 days. Email 5 would be 7 days, and email 6 would be 10 days. You can always space this out even more if you want, or you can add on additional emails too. Okay, so we've gone through a lot already. Now let's talk about what you actually want to put in terms of content into these emails. We'll use a specific content framework for each of these different emails in the sequence. Okay, so the first flow here is the welcome series. Now, what we want to do in the first email is just deliver the offer and actually just welcome people to the brand. What a surprise. This should be sent immediately. There shouldn't be a delay on this, and you should be shooting for 60 to 80% open rates. The second email in the welcome series is going to be more of an emotional connection and an offer reminder. So this is where we're building a little bit more rapport. We're sharing your brand story, and we're gently reminding people about the actual offer. And then the third email is going to be USPs in education. So this is just really where we're highlighting, like, why are we different? Why should you care? And what we're trying to do here is identify those USPs that are going to be different than other brands, and also potentially deliver some educational content if it is like kind of applicable for your brand. The fourth is going to be social proof and top sellers. So this is where we're trying to build trust and build credibility here. It could be testimonials, it could be case studies, it could be best-selling, it could be reviews, it could be testimonials, it could be case studies, it could be showcasing some of your best sellers. And the final one here in the welcome series is going to be a last chance to use the promo offer. This is where we want to create urgency and remind people about the offer for one last time. The second flow we'll run through today is the browse abandonment flow. This is really just to re-engage people who hit a product page and didn't add to cart, didn't make it any further. Email 1 is just going to be a simple reminder. It's a gentle nudge, just reminding people that they viewed a product and that they kind of forgot about it without being super pushy or super needy. It's basically just like a, hey, like reminder kind of email. The second is going to be product benefits and related items, because people who hit this stage may or may not actually be interested in the product because they didn't add to cart or they didn't initiate checkout. We want to focus on specific benefits of the product or products that they viewed, and then maybe suggest some complementary items because, again, they may not be actually interested in that initial product. The third is going to be social proof and educational content. This is really where we're building more trust with real customer reviews and trying to overcome some objections that people might have with education as well. And then fourth is urgency and an optional incentive. What we want to do here is just create FOMO with urgency messaging. If you have a limited stock or scarcity as well, let's incorporate that here too. And then also you can start to incorporate some incentives here for high value prospects. We don't want to be sending this to everyone. We don't want to be sending this to VIPs. We don't want to be sending this to purchasers. Maintain this across. Make sure that the incentive is just going to those people who have not purchased before. The third flow we're going to run through is the abandoned checkout or the abandoned cart. Kind of interchangeable. Some people call it abandoned cart, some people call it abandoned checkout, but there's actually two different flows. So there's an abandoned cart which is basically people who add to cart, and then there's an abandoned checkout, which is when people actually hit the checkout page. Slightly different objections, similar, but here's 5 emails you can use for these flows. The first is, again, a simple reminder, friendly, non-pushy email, just reminding people what they left in the cart. The second is going to be a social proof or benefits email based off of the initial objections that people might experience. What we want to do is highlight some reviews, highlight some product benefits here. And then in email 3, we dive into deeper objections that people might have. This, again, is going to vary based off the products you're selling and the categories you're in, but we're going to want to address more complex concerns that might be holding people back from actually completing their purchase here. Again, people who hit this stage obviously want what you sell. You need to sell them more on you and more on the objections that people might have at that stage in the funnel, not necessarily just pitching people with a ton of different products, right? The fourth email here is going to be the incentive. Now, this is just going to be a targeted offer to push people who have never purchased before across the finish line. And then number 5 is going to be an incentive reminder. And this could also be a customer service email or touch base, where we're basically being like, hey, this is the last chance to use your offer. And if people don't respond, you can always be like, hey, like, what's going on? What prevented you from purchasing? Is there anything we can help with? That kind of customer service touch base or customer service check-in can go a really long way too. Now, the final flow here is the post-purchase thank you flow. Now, what we want to do here is turn first-time buyers into loyal customers with personalized follow-up. So again, leveraging that zero-party data. And what we want to do is, number 1 is just a personalized thank you. So what we want to do here is make sure customers actually feel valued with a more personalized message, again, based on that segmentation data. Number 2 is telling your brand story in a way that incorporates them into it and hyping people up and getting people excited to be part of your tribe. Number 3 is product education or usage or FAQs. This is the piece that 99% of brands miss, but maximizing your product satisfaction by actually helping your customers achieve their desired result. Not just, hey, we got your money and peace out, we're done. And the final piece here is cross-selling. So you have an opportunity here to either cross-sell, or if you only have a few products, upsell people, increase customer lifetime value with complementary products, with more of the same product, and or getting them into your community, getting them into your tribe, and improving and increasing that engagement there too. Now, all of this is not just theoretical. This is the exact strategy that we use for our clients who are generating 7 and even 8 figures from their Klaviyo flows. Now, for many of our clients, the welcome flow and the post-purchase flow actually generate even more revenue than the cart recovery flow. Now, for those of you who do want to implement this system, but you don't have the time or the technical expertise, and if you're a 7 or 8 figure brand looking for hands-on help implementing these strategies, we work with a handful of clients every quarter, and there's a link in the description where you can book in a strategy session where we'll actually audit your email infrastructure and help you identify some of the biggest opportunities for improvement specifically for your brand. So if you're interested in that, go ahead, check out the link below, and hope to chat with you soon.